Happy holiday to you and you and you and you. And also happy holiday to our guest in the studio today. We're just delighted that you're here. You know, I'll just have to say it straight and say it like it is. We have a very nice show lined up for you today, but a lot of the guests hasn't arrived in the studio yet. But guess what? It's 5 p.m. and we're going to start the show because everything on the show are all things that Queen Mother has known about in the past. So we're just very happy for who is in studio today, and we'll see who's going to show up. I am your host, Ella Dashanaba King, also known as Queen Mother de Nuno the First of Ghana. And our co-host, Nana Efua Adezawa, I am expecting her. Our co-host, health and wellness coach, Rakaya Murphy, she's going to be out today. Let us take a moment of silence in honor of her mom's passing. Okay, thank you. May Mama J rest in peace. You know, Rakaya was on Mother's case always about eating right and changing her diet and working out and things of that nature. She worked hand in hand with her mother, but the Lord saw fit to call Mother home. So let us rejoice and be happy and be glad in it because it is a road that we all must travel. We're in season 13 of the Queen Mother Speak Show. This is the last episode for 2023. You may remember our theme: success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage. It's the courage. It's the courage that you have to continue, ladies and gentlemen, that counts. All right? Courage is the secret sauce that you use in spite of or despite your fears. So that was our theme for the last 2 seasons of 2023. We will have a new theme for you coming into the 2024 year. Hey, hit that like, share, comment button. Come on in into the show. Be sure to click on facebook.com/Queen Mother Speaks or youtube.com Queen Mother Speaks. And you can pick us up live right now, right here, right now, right here, right now. Okay, so in studio today, let's see who we actually have in studio today. Here's our guest in studio today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. And thank you for being here. Her name
My pleasure.
is Estelle. Estelle's going to tell you her full name. Okay. And and that she's going to be and what she'll be presenting on the show today. Estelle?
Thank you. My full name is Estelle F. Strizhak. The F is for Francis. And I'm going to be explaining to you all about Hanukkah. That's the Jewish festival of lights that comes around the same time Christmas does. Jewish people use a lunar calendar, whereas you guys use a solar calendar. So it's not always, it's around the same time of Christmas, more or less. And it's a wonderful celebration and holiday, and I'm going to tell you all about it.
All right, very good. We're going to bring Estelle back in a little bit. We're just going to go ahead and take a look at some of the other things on the calendar for today. Now, right here, right now, is the time that we would normally do our meditation. But I had taken the meditation out for today because we had such a full house. But now that we don't have a full house, Queen Mother Speaks is going to put the breathing exercise, and we're also going to do a meditation right after that. So let's get ready. Now, we remember that during the time of the pandemic, all of us was experiencing uh, friends and family just everywhere. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to take a call on online. We all know that during pandemic, we had friends and family passing away everywhere. So all of our hearts were heavy. One of the things I did to lower the rate on my heart, okay, and my pressure is I started taking classes in breathing, breathing, online breathing from the Art of Living Institute located right here in Nairobi, Kenya. They do have offices worldwide. But they were here and I was able to learn about breathing, which I say saved my life during the pandemic. So we're going to do a little breathing with you right now. And here's how it works. We're going to breathe in through the nose to the count of six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just giving you an example now. You will breathe in through the nose to the count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold also to the count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you're going to exhale. Exhale again through the nose very slowly to the count of 12. No, we'll do it to 10 because you have to really be into breathing to go it up to 12. So we're going to go 6 in, 6 breathing in, 6 hold, and then we'll go 10 blowing out slowly through the nose. Okay, here we go. Ready? Let's go. Hold. Release. Okay, we're going to do it again. Breathe in. Hold. Okay, we're going to do one more, and I'm going to ask you to really get into it. Those of you tuning in, thank you for those tuning into the Queen Mother Speak Show. All right, here we go. Number 3. 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold. Release. 2, 3. Well, because I've been breathing for a while, I can make it to the release of 10. But you may find that you have exhaled and you're only at 6. That's okay. Keep working it, keep practicing it, and you will get to it and you will get through it. Do know that breathing helps to lower your blood pressure, okay? And breathing also helps you to learn how to control your breathing. I actually control my emotions, my stress through breathing. So I invite you to do the same. Once again, the organization is called the Art of Living Institute. You can find them online, and they are a global organization, and they do these workshops all over the globe. And thank you for tuning in. And if you choose to, give them a call. Check them out and see where they are in your city. So right now, we're just going to go move right ahead into doing our devotion for today. Now, as we had not planned for a devotion today, I'm going to come up with one. Hold on, because I've already had mine this morning. Let me go and get one that I can read with you and to you now. Okay, and the devotional that I'm going to read for you today is called God is My Good. God is my good. God is my good. I acknowledge God as omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscience. I acknowledge God as all the good that is in my life. God is my health, God is my prosperity, and God is my relationships. God is my work. God is my everything, everything. There is nothing that separates me from God. God is my good, and this good is evident wherever I see. Each day I am blessed with all that my soul needs, and it is God. I accept God as my good. I praise God for the good that is within me and for all the good that also surrounds me. Each day, I begin my day by seeing God everywhere and in everything. Thank you, wisdom in me, through me, as me, around me, through the Christ within. And so it is. Our scripture reading for today is one thing have I asked of the Lord, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. Psalms 27:4. And this reading that we just did with you is a little book from Hillside International Truth Center, Atlanta, Georgia, USA, my home church in the States. And we do a little book that's called The Daily Thoughts. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. The Daily Thoughts from the Hill. And it's Hillside International Truth Center. Thank you for breathing with me. I hope that you're doing some of the breath work on your own when you're not on the Queen Mother Speak show, because for sure it can help you. We like to give a shout out to our audience. Let me just see who that is tuning in right now. Ooh, let me go to comments and let's see who's there. Hi. Thank you for tuning in to the Queen Mother Speak show. We love having you. Thank you for tuning in during this holiday season. All right. So right now we're going to go to the section that talks about what is Christmas. Unfortunately, our presenter is not here at the moment. That's okay. Yes, it's you about the meaning of Christmas. Okay. Christmas is an annual festival commemorating the birth of Jesus Christ, observed primarily on December 25th as a religious and a cultural celebration with billions of people around the world. It is about Christmas, that is. It is about how Jesus came to give us love, hope, and joy. For 2 millennia, people around the world have been observing Christmas with traditions and practices that are both religious, and some of them are also circular in nature. It is a worldwide cultural and commercial phenomenon. And when I say cultural phenomenon, a commercial phenomenon, we'll speak on that before we complete talking about Christmas. Christmas embodies symbolism shared by many ancient customs. The birth of Jesus itself represents the birth of light in the world. The battle between darkness and light, good and evil, signifies rebirth, renewal, and conquering death. Mm. Christians celebrate Christmas Day as the anniversary of the birth of Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth was a spiritual leader whose teachings on the basis of their religion were popular customs. Christmas involves the exchange of gifts, decorating Christmas trees, attending church, sharing meals with family and friends, and of course, waiting for Santa Claus to arrive. December 25th, Christmas Day, It's been a federal holiday in the United States since 1870. Now, it wasn't until the 19th century that Americans began to embrace Christmas. And Americans actually reinvented Christmas for themselves. They actually reinvented Christmas for themselves. How did they do that? Well, they changed it from a carnival holiday into a family centered day of peace and nostalgia. Can you hear that? That it was changed from being like a carnival to a day of peace and to a day of also being with your family. Also, it was around this time that English author Charles Dickens created the classic holiday tale, A Christmas Carol. Some of you may remember that. Okay. Families were becoming more and more less disciplined and more sensitive to the emotional needs of themselves and of their children in the early 1800s. So, therefore, Christmas came in and it provided families with a day that they could lavish, I mean, lavish attention on their children with gifts without appearing to spoil them. You know, we all have children in our family and we like to do things for them and we like to do things with them. But it is possible sometimes to overdo it. And what the Christians are saying here is that they also looked at Christmas Day as a time that they could give gifts to their children without spoiling them. It's like saying, thank you for what you've done this year. We'll talk about that again in a moment in one of the other customs or traditions that are practiced around this time. Okay, let's talk about the guy named Santa Claus. Santa Claus. Santa Claus can be traced back to a monk named Saint Nicholas. That's it. The word Santa Claus is traced back to Saint Nick. Saint Nick was born in Turkey around 280 AD. Saint Nick gave away all of his inherited wealth and he traveled in the countryside helping people who were less fortunate than themselves, the poor and the sick and the shed in. And he also became known as a protector of children. This is St. Nicholas. So St. Nicholas entered the American popular culture in the late 18th century and it started in a place called New York. That's when Dutch families moved from their official home to the States, settled in New York. Okay, and then they would gather as they had now moved to New York, and they would gather to come together and honor the anniversary of the death of Saint Nicholas. The Saint, well, Sint, Sint, Nikolas is the Dutch spelling for Saint Nicholas. All right, or Center Claus, Center Claus. So you see, that's how the name Santa Claus came about. It started at St. Nicholas, then it went to Santa Claus for short, and it eventually became a thing we call Santa Claus. So Santa Claus draws its name from St. Nick. Okay. What's another thing I like to speak on in terms of Christmas is that Christmas eventually built a whole tradition, a whole culture of its own. Okay, with and they borrowed, shall we say, things from other customs. But today, the way we know it, it is a decorating of the trees. It's sending out holiday cards. It's gift giving. It is also giving gifts to each other and to your friends and family. But make no mistake about it, Jesus is really the reason for the season. Queen Mother, want to take a moment to say thank you for those who are tuning in to the Queen Mother Speak Show. This is our very special holiday celebration. Okay. Pastor Mary of St. Paul United Church of Christ in Westminster pointed out that Christmas embodies symbolism shared by many ancient customs. So what we want you to hear in that is that there are things that are borrowed into the celebration of Christmas as we know it. And the birth of Jesus itself represents the birth of light in the world, the battle between darkness and light, as we've said, good and evil. It signifies, once again, rebirth, renewal, rebirth, renewal, and conquering death. Okay. All right. The concept of all paths lead to God epitomizes the Unitarian message, and it's the core of the winter holiday observance. All right. The church will often incorporate various themes into these winter holiday observances. Okay. Sometimes during the Christmas season, you learn about Christmas, you learn about the birth of Christ, you learn the meaning of who Jesus is and what that's all about. But sometimes we will also, in the church, talk about what other religions also do. But at the end of the day, the idea of coming together as a family, as a community, right? And recognizing and understanding that Jesus is the reason for the season, that's very critical. That's what we really remember about Christmas. I can speak from my own experience as a little girl when Christmas would come around. Um, oh boy, the night before you'd just be too happy. You couldn't go to sleep. Your parents had to sometimes spank you to make you go to bed on Christmas Eve. But once you got in that bed, at some point you did fall asleep. And we did the thing of setting out milk and cookies for Santa because we had the idea that Santa was going to come down a chimney. Isn't that something? We didn't even have a chimney. So I don't know how he would have got in, but at that age and stage in our life, all we knew is Santa was going to come down the chimney, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to Cream Mother Speaks. How many of you out there listening in, tuning in today, also felt like Santa Claus was going to come through the chimney? Tell me about it. Give me a message in the chat. Hit us up in the chat. Let me know your thoughts about it. But some real facts about Christmas is that 25 to 30 million real Christmas trees are sold in the United States alone. That doesn't account for the other cities and countries who are now celebrating Christmas with the tree. There are about 15,000 Christmas tree farms in America. And these tree farms usually grow between 4 and 15 years before they become sold. In the Middle Ages, okay, Christmas celebrations were rowdy and rambunctious. That's the way they were in the beginning. They were rowdy. It was like a carnival. All right, but it's the Christians who changed it from the carnival atmosphere to one of being a community event and one of peace and one of sharing. Okay. When Christmas was canceled in 1659 to 1681, the celebration of Christmas was outlawed in Boston altogether. And if you decided to celebrate Christmas at that time, you know what happened? You were fined 5 shillings. How about that? All right. The first eggnog made in the United States was consumed in a place called Boston. The first eggnog was consumed in a place called Boston. Isn't that something? Okay. We want to say that Jamestown settlement is the first place in the United States where the eggnog, which is that drink, where that drink was being consumed. Okay. Let's talk about poinsettias. Where did they come from? Poinsettia plants are named after a man by the name of, what is his name here? Poinsettias. They're named after Joel Poinsett. The poinsettia plant that we love to put out at Christmas was named after a gentleman, Mr. Joel Poinsett. Okay, he was an American minister who served in Mexico, and he brought the red and green plant from Mexico to America in 1828. And the Salvation Army would send Santa Claus donation into the streets since the 1890s. Let's talk about another famous character around Christmas. His name is Rudolph. How many of you are familiar with the name of Rudolph? Who knows who Rudolph is? Rudolph is the most famous reindeer of all. He was called Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He was the most famous reindeer, and he was a product of Mr. Robert May's imagination back in 1939. The copywriter who wrote a poem about the reindeer to help lure, they actually wrote a poem about reindeer to lure customers into the stores to buy. And it helped a lot in luring the people in. And construction workers started the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree tradition in 1931. I can recall again as a young girl all the beautiful trees that would be in our neighborhood, including our own house. Then at some point I grew up and I moved to a place called New York City. And I too got to experience that beautiful Christmas tree that's put every year in the Rockefeller Center. And I'm going to get some statistics for you on that tree. I don't remember how tall it was, but I know it was way, 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 way up in the air and that it was very big and it was very beautiful. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the meaning of Christmas and where the word Christmas came from. But in all that you say, and all that you do, and all that you eat, please know that Jesus is the reason for the season, and that's why it's called Christmas. Okay. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Queen Mother Speak Show, tuning in to our holiday celebration where we're talking about Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa. So right now, we're going to bring on this Miss Estelle, and she is going to share with us about the meaning and the celebration of Hanukkah. Thank you so much for being with us once again, Estelle. Happy
Thank you. It's
holiday.
my pleasure.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah to you.
Thank you.
All right, let's start by understanding that Hanukkah is known as the Festival of Lights. And although when we have Sabbath candles, those candles are placed inside, the Hanukkah lights are placed to the outside to show the world and to light up the darkness inside to outside. So that's part of the tradition. Now, the word Hanukkah is a Hebrew word. It comes from Chanukat, which means to dedicate or rededicate. If you move into a new house or a new home, you will often invite your pastor to come in and dedicate the house when you're moving in, and he will dedicate the windows, the doors, the floor, the kitchen, all the different parts of the house for the Lord so that he comes in and finds it. That's an old tradition, a Christian tradition that comes from the Jewish tradition of dedication, which is Chanukat. Now, this holiday began in the time, Judaism is a very old religion. Christianity comes from Judaism, and Judaism is 5,700 plus years around. So this holiday comes from the time, and of course, as you know, the Jews were given land in Israel by the Lord, and Abraham is the father of Judaism, and he settled there, and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the three fathers, and Jacob had 12 sons, and that's how Judaism grew. And Jews lived in what is now Israel. It was Judea and Samaria in those days. And as always, countries wanted to conquer Israel. The Greeks had conquered Israel. And there was the first temple that had been built in Jerusalem for religious reasons and for worship, and that was taken over by the Greeks. Now, the Greeks were not, this is before Christianity, so the Greeks desecrated the temple, stole all the goods from the temple, sacrificed animals in the temple, and put their many idols in the temple. Well, the Jews had really had enough, and they were not happy. There was a very famous family of an old religious family of Jews called the Maccabees, Macabes.
Okay.
And Mattathias was the father of this family, and he had quite a number of sons. And these boys decided that they wanted to get the Greeks out of the temple and out of the lives of Jews in what was then Israel. So they started a war, and it didn't look like they were succeeding, but ultimately they did. They got the Greeks out, even though, of course, the Greeks wanted to be in control. When they saw the condition in the temple, they were shocked and amazed. Everything was desecrated. Now, in the temple, there is a holy lamp that has to be burned 24/7. And the oil for this lamp has to be prepared, and it takes 7 days to do the preparation of the oil. The Greeks had spilled the oil all over here and there, and there was only one small flask of oil left. And that would only be enough for 1 day. But they lit the light in the synagogue, that in the temple that had to be lit, and they were amazed because the lamp lasted for 7 days, and on the 8th day they had the fresh oil. So when you celebrate Hanukkah, you have a menorah, which is the candelabra, and it has 7 stilts, and then it has an 8th one that's bigger. The 8th one is the head, and that's the one that lights the other candles. It's called the shemesh, or the shamash, the one in charge. So on the first night of Hanukkah, you light the shamash and you light only one candle. On the second night, and you always go from right to left. On the second night, you relight the shamash to get a new shamash, and then you light a new candle for the first night, and you light a candle for the second. So this is a holiday that celebrates light, and it's a holiday of gift giving, and it's a holiday of special foods, the most special of which is latkes. That's L-A-T-K-E. A latke is shredded potatoes that are fried up like a pancake and are eaten either with applesauce or with sour cream. And that's one of the special treats for Hanukkah. Now, as you know, in this year, because of what happened in Israel on October 7th, this Hanukkah was a very holy and a special time for Jews in Israel and Jews all around the world to remember that many other, at that time, big shot kingdoms tried to do away with us, and they are all gone. But the Jews are still here. And that's part of what is written in the Torah, our Bible, which is what you call the Old Testament, what Christians call the Old Testament, the 5 books of Moses and the prophets and the extras, is that you can't do away with the Jews. The Greeks were an early way of trying, and they failed. And we got the temple back, and we celebrate that. Now, one of the things that's part of the Jewish tradition that many do not know, but the rabbis, our religious leaders, know, is that King David had the most powerful army ever among the Jews. And now the question was, how did he have such a powerful army at that time? And the reason is, half of his soldiers fought and half of his soldiers prayed. And this time in Israel, when the Israel Defense Forces are trying to find the hostages, free the hostages, and get rid of Hamas for the horrible things they have done, the massacre they tried to do on October 7th, what we find is in Israel, around the sites where the Israel Defense Forces are fighting, they have asked that children, and especially boys, studying the holy books, studying the Word of God, do this between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. because those are the most difficult times for them in fighting. So they're asking for prayers and religious backup to their fighting. And this is a Jewish tradition, and this is one of the reasons why Hanukkah is called the Festival of Light. So remembering that at this time is really important for us. I hope I was made myself clear, Queen Mother. Thank you for having me and allowing me to do this. Hello? Are you there? Hello? Queen Mother?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can now. I can.
Okay. Well, I've been here all along. But
Thank you. I'm
what I'm
good.
saying is, I did learn something new from you today about half of the people in battle and the other half praying.
In King David, that in the time of King David. And
Yeah.
the Israeli Defense Forces have asked that students study and pray for them, and schools arrange for students to pray in the areas where they're fighting between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. to give them courage and give them strength.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's
Interesting.
going on even now.
Mm. Okay. Well, I have been keeping up a bit with the war because I've been
Yes.
fortunate enough to actually travel to Israel. I've been myself fortunate enough to get to go to some of the great temples that are there. Okay. And we're
Hmm.
just very pleased to have you here today. I know you've been to Israel. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I
How
have.
many
And
times?
I've been to the Western Wall and I've prayed there.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Jewish people hopes is that because we believe that Messiah has not yet come, but
Mm-hmm.
we believe that the temple will someday be rebuilt in the name of the Lord, not
Mm-hmm.
just the Western Wall,
Mm-hmm.
and that we will have a beautiful temple once again. Because we had two. This is the
Okay.
second one that was destroyed by the Romans. And the
Mm-hmm.
Romans tried to get rid of us too. In 70 AD, they had a terrible, basically, they destroyed Jerusalem
Mm-hmm.
and they murdered and exterminated as many Jews as they could find. But the Romans are gone today and the
Mm-hmm.
Jews are still here.
Well, something has to be said about longevity.
Well, this is a promise from the Lord.
Hmm. That's what I wanted to hear you say. That
Exactly.
that's
This is a promise
longevity.
from the Lord.
Hmm. Very
And
good.
people can try to destroy us, but it's not possible.
Hmm. Mm. And they've tried it many times and in many countries.
Yes, basically
Getting another call, but I have to decline because I'm
every
on
group that
on
rose
air.
every group that rose to power
Hmm.
has tried. Every single one.
I've got something ringing. I'm trying to turn it off.
Okay.
It's off. Okay. Are you complete?
Yes, I am. Unless anybody has any questions for me, I'm very happy to answer them if I can. But
All
the
right. Well,
the
we do have some people tuning in today, but they're not saying who they are or where they're from. We're going to ask you once again to go ahead. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Just go right ahead and say who you are. in the chat box. We'd like to hear from you. And we're here also for any questions that you may have at this time. So now I have a question for you, Estelle. So what do you
Sure.
think is going to happen with the war that's going on right now?
I'm sorry?
What do you think? What do you think is going to happen with the war going on right now? If you can,
Well,
if you feel free to discuss it.
sure. I think it's a real problem because there are several issues that have to be addressed all at the same time.
Mhm.
One of them is the fact that Hamas's intention is to destroy Israel completely and to destroy all Jews everywhere in the world.
Mhm.
And that you have to has to be dealt with. That's a big problem for Jews and for Israel. Then the problem is what has to go on what has to be done on the ground now in Gaza. And the
Mhm.
real issue is what has to be done so that the hostages can be released and returned to their families. That's the first priority.
Mhm.
And that's the first priority with the background of the fact that Hamas wants to destroy all of Israel and all the Jews all over the world. That's why this is such a difficult problem to get a solution for.
I
What
see.
I know is being tried, although everybody is demanding a ceasefire, that's not going to happen unless the powers that be agree on terms. And one of those terms is what has to happen for the
Mhm.
release of more hostages.
Okay.
So that's the best I can do with that.
I see. I see.
But you have to
So,
remember that what Hamas wants is the destruction of Israel and the destruction of Jews everywhere. That's their
now,
goal.
I don't know if I've read that that's what the Hamas want to do, that they
I've
want to
not
destroy
only read
all
it,
Jews.
I've not only read it, I've heard it announced by Hamas.
Okay. And what do the Jews want to do to the Hamas?
Well, unfortunately, on the extreme right, they want to totally eliminate Hamas. Whether
Okay.
that's humanly possible or not is a horse of another color.
Okay.
But what they want to do is to get the hostages released and to be sure that whatever is left of Hamas is not able to do this kind of destruction again.
Hmm. Hmm. So neither side is talking about how we can peacefully end this. Both sides is like all or none.
That's right.
Okay.
That's where the problem is.
Hmm. Well, I don't know about the all or none. My
Well,
experience in reading is that both sides somehow, some way, have to come with some kind of concession.
no, I understand, but we're not there yet. That's the problem.
Hmm. Mm.
And nobody
Okay.
knows right now what has to happen for that to happen. All we know is that all those groups that were part of the last opportunity for hostages to be released by a cessation of fire on both sides are still
Hmm.
working at it and are still talking. But so far, there's been no result.
I see. Do you
So
think
it's
in
not a
your
dead
heart of
issue.
hearts,
Yeah.
do you think in your heart of hearts that there is going to be some kind of concession on both sides for this thing to end? How many lives do we have to lose before. Usually, when there's opposition like this, both people have to come together with some open mind of what we can do to solve it. But we're not there yet.
No. And that's why, and what we have to do is just keep going with that in mind and see how we can move forward with this situation in the direction you're talking. Because
Well,
right now, I'm sorry?
Go ahead. I was saying
Right now,
personally, I hope, I don't know how, and I don't know who. I mean, it may even come from the groups of those people who are praying from 1 to 4 during this wartime. But somehow people have to come to the table with the mind to settle.
But at this point, that's not the problem. Is Hamas is very strong of not having that mind. So
and on the other side,
on the other side, because of that, they've taken the exact opposite side. You know, it's like the big traffic jam on Mombasa Road. Nobody wants to move first to let anybody go. And I remember a story in Kenya where there was a jam on Mombasa Road for 4 hours, and the police came to try to settle it out, but nobody would let anybody go first. So the police said, "Have a nice life. We're leaving you. You won't let us resolve this. So you figure it out."
Really?
Yep. This was a good couple of years ago. My taxi driver told me this story. And the jam lasted for 4 hours.
Well, I've been on Mombasa and jams like that. Indeed, I have. I'm noticing that co-host Teresa is in the studio, not fully, but sort of. Let me send her a message to see if she's ready to come in.
Right.
Okay. Let me just go back and just ask her again. All right, I've sent her a message, but there hasn't been a response. So I'm just going to assume that she is not ready to come in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk a bit about Kwanzaa. Now, we do have a very special Kwanzaa video that was pre-taped for us to fit right into this section at this particular time. All right. But for whatever reason, I'm not getting it up. So what I'm going to do, I'd have to go out of the studio to try to figure out how to bring it in. I don't want to do that with the time that we have. So what I want to do is I want to speak on Kwanzaa from my own personal experience. And that video about Kwanzaa, we will play for you next week. And we'll also play it during the week. During the week on Queen Mother Speaks, as well as next week, we'll have it on. But let me just say that my introduction to Kwanzaa came through my family, basically my older sisters. And in my family, there are 8 plus 2, making 10. The 2 were children by my mother and father when they came together as a unit. But mom and dad together had 8 children from the one mother. And it is from my elder sisters that I learned about Kwanzaa and what Kwanzaa really is. Okay, let me just give a little meaning to Kwanzaa. The principles and meaning of Kwanzaa, the holiday is called to celebrate the richness of what it means to have African roots. And Kwanzaa was actually created by Dr. Maulana Kurenga out of California, who is a professor at Cal State University. I had the joy, the honor, and the pleasure of living right across the street from Ron Karenga's studio in Los Angeles on Crenshaw Boulevard. So we would get up in the morning and go to our church for service, come home, have a bite to eat, or go out for lunch, have a bite to eat. But then by 4:30, 5 o'clock, you were over at the Karenga Center, okay, with Dr. Ron Karenga. And you would sit there and they would give you information on Black history, information on Black culture, and certainly teach us and tell us about this thing that's called Kwanzaa. Okay, so that's how I came to know about Kwanzaa. It is observed from December 26th through January 1st. It's a 7-day celebration. One of the differences between Kwanzaa and Hanukkah is celebrated for 8 days. Kwanzaa is celebrated for 7. That's one of the differences that I found in reading about them. Okay, Kwanzaa also offers a dialogue to the world on Black culture and what our positive contributions to the world are, not just the negative stigma of race. We get a lot of that, as you well know. We get a lot of that. But Kwanzaa, the idea behind Kwanzaa is to create a new dialogue around a people, the African American and Pan African people. Kwanzaa is therefore an African American holiday, and it's also a Pan African holiday. And Kwanzaa is centered on 7 principles. Again, I'm not gonna do no bad justice to that great video. We actually have a Kwanzaa expert, right? Person who's been doing Kwanzaa since 1971 to teach us about Kwanzaa, who's on the video. And again, we'll just wait and show it. I'll talk about Kwanzaa just a bit more. So the word Kwanzaa, Kwanza, is the word Kwanzaa. It is a Kiswahili word, and it means first fruits. First fruits. Matunda ya Kwanzaa, first fruits, referring to the agricultural harvest festivals that are found throughout Africa. So that's where the word Kwanzaa itself comes from. And Dr. Karenga decided to add another A to the word Kwanzaa. So it becomes Kwanzaa. And anytime you have 2 letters repeated, it means you elongate the sound. That is how you do it in the Kiswahili language. Once again, I want to say hello to those of you tuning in to the Queen Mother Speak Show. We're so happy you're here. We're so happy you're here. Okay. And again, we have a great video about Kwanzaa. And the person who did the Kwanzaa is a legend in and of herself. So I don't want to mess it up by talking about it too much, but I'm just going to continue to talk about my experience with Kwanzaa and learning it from my family, what it is, and learning it also from my friends. Okay. I got to the point with Kwanzaa where we were having Kwanzaa celebrations all over America in homes during the season. We were having Kwanzaa celebrations all the time. Eventually, I grew up to even have Kwanzaa celebrations in my home. And in the subdivision where I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, every holiday season, we would celebrate Christmas and we would celebrate Kwanzaa. And we rotate from house to house to house for the events. One house may start off having salads. Another house would have desserts. Another house would have the main meal. Then another house would have the desserts. And then the last house would be the house for the drinks. But the food would follow you all along the way. So by the time you got to the last house, you not only had drinks, but you had some of the same food that you had before from the other houses. And then there would be an exchange of gifts. Usually it would be children exchanging gifts and parents giving things to their children. For example, I used to do a thing every year called PWP, Party with a Purpose. And it was for young people. It was based on their grades. So at the end of the school year, I would get a copy of their grades. and their parents would pay them money for the A's, the B's, and the C's that were on their card. They got $1 for A, they got 50 cents for a B, and 20 cents, I'm sorry, 25 cents for a C. Okay. And depending on the number of A's is how many dollars you got, the number of B's and the number of C's. And so that's how we would celebrate our Kwanzaa. At the end of the year, we would give those children, they would be given money for the days, okay, that they in fact had done well in school. And it became a tradition. I mean, at one point, I would have up to 200, 250 children at my house. We take all the furniture out. The kids would take over for the weekend. Take the furniture out. Of course, you leave the beds in. Girls upstairs, boys downstairs. And we would get involved in all sorts of activities outside all day long for 3 days. Okay? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The parents would bring the children over on Friday to me with their change of clothes and their little overnight bag. And we had activities planned all day Friday, all day Saturday. What are the types of things we would do? Well, we would go to the park and go swinging. We would go to another park or we would go swimming, but we had already arranged in advance with the park that we would bring in the children so that they could hire more swimmers and more to watch over the children while they were swimming. And they couldn't all get in the pool at one time. It was too many. They would do 20 at a time. So they had sequences of the children going to the pool while others may have been in the swing. At the end of the day, when we finished at the park, we go back home and we would start a fire outside so that the children could roast marshmallows and roast hot dogs. And then by the time Sunday came along, all right, the parents would come and pick the children up. And the children would also be asked to create a word of welcome, a word of praise, and a word of thanks to their parents. So that's how I recall spending Kwanzaa for many years. Also, many years, I chose not to even have a tree, but to just put out the Kwanzaa symbols, which are the 7 candles, the Kanara, okay, the Mkeka, the mat, you know, and those things. So I have actually celebrated Christmas myself, I'm going to say on a regular basis, I'm going to say since 1981, every year. And even here in Kenya, I also celebrate Kwanzaa. Once again, the holiday again originated to reaffirm and restore African heritage and culture. And yes, Kwanzaa was definitely born out of the Black Power movement from the 60s, and again founded by Dr. Ron Karenga in the year 1966. And the idea for him that it's about empowering the people to rediscover their African. He actually traveled to Kenya. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing because I don't want to spoil the whole story, but he traveled to Kenya, and those colors of red, black, and green that we use to celebrate Kwanzaa, those are the Marcus Garvey colors. And that story of how Marcus Garvey was a part of it is very much on the video talking about Kwanzaa, which we won't play today. We're going to play it another day. We're almost at the end of our hour. One of the things I want to say about Kwanzaa is I like it because it doesn't start Black history from slavery. It doesn't. It starts out talking about who we are as people. Hello, Estelle. Hello, Estelle.
I'm right here. I'm right here.
Open your eyes. You're live, international. Drink some water.
I'm right here. I'm definitely open. My eyes. I'm listening. I'm right here.
And I've got a comment coming in saying, all right, let's put that on the screen for you. Yeah.
I can't read that. I'm sorry. You'll have to read it for me.
I'll be happy to read it for you. What it says is Kwanzaa is an annual celebration of African American culture from December 26 to January 1, culminating in a community feast called Karamu on the last day of Kwanzaa is a big feast, and it is a family celebration. Children get involved, and I like it. I personally I enjoy it because you go from house to house to house. Different people will plan a Kwanzaa celebration on different days. So you may be at my house one day of those 7 days, but there's a different home usually every day of the Kwanzaa days where you're celebrating. Okay,
That's lovely.
going on.
That's wonderful
And yes, and
because
also to come to the
it
idea of
be,
gifts, right? When it comes to the idea of giving gifts for Kwanzaa, we ask that you give handmade gifts, nothing bought from the store, because that's what I wanted to come back and speak about, the commercialization of Christmas.
yes.
Christmas had become so horribly commercialized until families was trying to satisfy Santa Claus and didn't have anything the day after Christmas.
Right.
Everything goes towards Christmas. So we recreated that. And the Christmas is about gift giving. Kwanzaa is about gift giving. Hanukkah is about gift giving. But in the Kwanzaa setup, we want handmade gifts for you to create something from yourself. It could be a card, a handmade card. It could be crocheting. It could be braiding hair. It could be giving a poetry, a poem. Oh, it could be a lot of different things.
Well,
Okay.
the thing that's nice about Kwanzaa, as you've described it, is it's a community celebration. And
Exactly.
that's what's good about Hanukkah. Also, these
Mm-hmm.
are community celebrations. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
one person or two people. It's
Yes.
getting together with a group of people and doing some rituals together and
Yes.
enjoying food together and drink together and being with each other. That's
That's right.
what's the same about Kwanzaa and
That's
Hanukkah.
yes, being together. That is the main thing about those two, and we do love it very much. We've actually come to the end of our time for today, and we're going to go ahead and end the show. But there are two things that I want to say before we actually close out for the day. Let's see where those two things are. One is I just want to make mention to you is that there was a major flood in Ghana in mid-October. And when I say major flood, disaster, to the extent that houses are literally underwater. Some of you may know that Queen Mother was installed in the Volta region in Ghana. And the Volta region is where the flood is. Here on this visual that Nana's supplying for us, can you see where the water level is on the
Yeah.
house?
Amazing. Amazing.
And that the people are getting out of there on boats.
Yeah.
So I just want to take a moment, just a moment, and ask of you to consider donating. You can go to it's called the Ghana Flood Relief, okay, Red Cross Queen Mother Fund. And you can do that by, well, we got three ways that you can pay. You can make a deposit through PayPal, or if you're a business, you want to send a check, we have the information for the check for you to write a check and send. And thirdly, we've created a GoFundMe account, and it's called the Ghana Volta Region Flood Relief. But you can find it on GoFundMe. So, and I know we all are having a difficult time in many ways. Here is the GoFundMe QR code. All you have to do is take your phone and take a photo of this link. Just take your phone, use your phone camera, take a photo of this link. It's called scanning the QR code, and it will take you directly to the GoFundMe account. All right. And once you get there, you just follow the directions. All right. Yeah, just follow the directions. The other thing that I wanted to say to you before closing out this last show for the year is Queen Mother want to thank you for being our viewer. Whether you viewed the show in season 1, season 5, season 7, we're right now in season 13. We're actually into year 4 already of doing the Queen Mother Speak show. So I just want to take a moment and acknowledge you for tuning in and being here with us over these 3.5 years. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it has not been easy. It has not been easy. But what it has been is it's been very fulfilling to me. Very fulfilling. Again, it started during pandemic. We couldn't go to the office and do work. And in fact, the office is shut down. So I was saying, Lord, what shall I do? And people were calling me from America, talking about how their boys were being killed by the police and they wanted to leave America. It was around the time of George Floyd. People were trying to get out and they were calling me saying, Queen Mother, how can we get out of America? Please help us to get out of America. And when I consulted my inner spirit, that's how the Queen Mother Speak show came about. So thank you for being here. On the show next week, which is the first week in the new year, we're going to be asking our ancestors for blessings. So we're going to be pouring libation and calling on our ancestors to bless us in this new year. Secondly, what we'll be doing on the show is we want you to get in tune to your own body. We're going to get you to tune into your body tuning through the Tibetan bowls. We're going to have the Tibetan bowls played next week on the show. And from there, we're just going to talk a little bit about goal setting. So that's what's on the calendar for next week, along with the video about Kwanzaa. Got it? Thank you again for tuning into the Queen Mother Speak show every Wednesday, every week, live at 5 p.m. Kenya time, 2 p.m. Ghana time, 9 a.m. New York time, 6 a.m. California time, and I believe something like 4 a.m. Hawaii time. This is Queen Mother Speaks. We wish you a happy holiday. We wish you a happy new year. Like when we come back to you next week, we will already be in New Year. So Estelle, you want to take a moment and wish people a happy new year as well?
I want to thank everybody for joining us today and for being kind enough to listen to my presentation. And it was wonderful to be here and to share my tradition with you. And I wish everybody in their community personal happy holidays, and share your holiday with members of your family and your community and enjoy it together. That's my wish for all of you.
Very well. Estelle, have you ever attended a Kwanzaa celebration?
Not directly, probably on the side, but not directly.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's see what's happening here in Nairobi where we are between now and New Year.
Okay, fine.
Let's see if something's happening. I'll call you, I'll invite you, and we'll not only get to be together, we'll also get to celebrate a customary holiday together.
That'll be wonderful.
I have actually celebrated the Jewish holiday because I have several Jewish friends. Even when I was living in New York, we used to do these 3 things: Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, and Christmas together.
Right.
And all of the families and all of the children from the different cultures would come together. So let's see what we can create next year here in Kenya.
One of the things I did not mention is in the prayers that we say when we light the Hanukkah candles on the menorah, on the candelabra, we thank God for giving us miracles in those days and in these days right now. So we always remember the miracles of the past, and we know that the Lord is able to give us miracles right here and right now, and we thank Him in advance for that. So that's part of the prayers for the holiday.
Very well. Thank you again for being here, Estelle. I want to wish you Merry Christmas. I want to wish you Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Happy Kwanzaa. And again,
thank you. I'm in Africa, so right.
If I spot an event in Nairobi over the holiday, I will call you and we can meet up there. That would be very lovely.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you, dear.
Yes, thank you too. And thank you for tuning into the Queen Mother Speak show. We're going to end it the way we always do, and that is with sharing love. We have 1 minute to 6:10. So let's get those kisses out. As you remember, We go with the left hand first, then right hand kiss, then both hands. Are you ready? You ready?
Yes.
All right, left hand, blow the kiss. Right hand. And now both hands.
Now, both hands, it's difficult. There it is.
There we go. This is Queen Mother Speaks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone.